inquire about the group home that's supposed to be being built in our area. The how, when, and why it was determined that that was going, with all the land that's in Flint Township, that particular area, which I live in, was chosen.
So unfortunately, this isn't a question and answer, but I can tell you this. Mrs. Tucker is the Economic Enhancement Director. She has answers for you. They purchased the property. The state hands out the group home licenses if it's 7 or less. So we can give you more information. If you want to give us a call at the township, 810-732-1350. And if you want to give Tracy your phone number, we can give you a call tomorrow.
Okay.
And give you more answers.
Okay, now who do I give my number to?
I'll give you my card. It's got
Okay.
my cell phone on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
What was your name again?
Desiree. What was your last name?
House, Fouse.
Did you want to say anything else? Okay, sure.
F-O-U-S-E.
F. Was it F-O-U or F-A?
F-O-U.
O-U-S-E? Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the board?
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Mary, Flint Township, same neighborhood, pretty much piggybacking off the group home situation. Due to what research says, when group homes move into residential, the value of that property in that section kind of goes down. And my concern is we already have apartment complex on both sides of us where we live at. Now, my accolades, love Township Police, love the fire department. We don't have, where we're situated, many incidents. My greatest thing, being a head of a household, that might transfer and change. I've been provided an opportunity over the years to relocate to Grand Blanc, and I haven't because I love the police department. So I have not, and I've been 20 years in my home, and I've been faithful to Township, faithful to whoever make the changes, whoever go for it. I kind of go along, and I might not show up because I've had parents with cancer and running back and forth. But to come and realize that the group home wasn't for my benefit, it wasn't to enhance our neighborhood, and we already suffered a loss keeping Flint name during that time, because now if I sell my house, I have to pay a $400 appraisal for water just to get my house through, even though I live in Township. So somehow, this have not been to benefit me. So I'm a little concerned with that. So please, please, take heed to some of this. I don't come regularly because I'm in and out. And I normally on Mondays go home and sleep because I've left Indiana at 3 to go to work at 7. So I just want you guys to be aware, because all change is not good change if you're not taking who that area is represented or services. And I know everybody don't want it in their homes or in their neighborhood. I get that. But I can look at a lot of desolate township areas that could have had the demolished and rebuilt to satisfy that, or even isolated area additional. So I don't know the rationale behind it, so I will take heed to say that, but I do know what research said. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Can we get your last name, please?
Stewart.
Stewart. Thank you.
S-T-E-W-S-T-U-R.
Stewart.
Is there anyone else who'd like to address the board? I was getting ready to close it.
Kevin Stiff. I'm a business owner and a resident in Flint Township. What We've already had a couple residents that have spoke their mind about the meeting 2 weeks ago. I'm of the same mind, pretty embarrassing. I hope that the meetings never get to that point ever again. But that's really not the point that I want to bring up. Our comptroller stated that 25 will probably be a $500,000 deficit. At this point, that $500,000 deficit, that should have been addressed last year. I know Kevin works pretty hard at everything that he does. In fact, I think he probably works too hard at what he does. Plant Moran was here. They didn't paint a very good picture of everything that was going on. I took a budget home and I poured over it, and I don't think the board, I don't know, maybe you guys all looked at that budget, but you couldn't have looked at it very well, because looking at what the budget was and looking at 2024, 23, and 22, you people should have been looking at it and seeing where it was. We're broke. I mean, there's money there, but that money did not exist. That was COVID money, which we don't have, and we're surely not going to have it next year or the year after. COVID money is gone. I'm a small business owner. I don't have the money you people have, and I watch my books. I watch my books daily. I pour over my books. When I know that I don't have money coming in, I'm very careful with how I do my books. And you people need to do something. I know there's a couple of you that aren't going to be here, and probably for the good. But the people that are here, I reminded you last meeting, the term fiduciary. Did you go home and look it up? The term fiduciary means you're supposed to do what we want. You're supposed to look out for what we want. You're supposed to do everything that we want you to do, not what you're supposed to want to do. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of you. How many doorknobs are in this township? You're supposed to be doing what we want. The police chief, he's supposed to do what we want. The fire chief is supposed to do what we want. And then comes to Kevin, our comptroller. He's got that whole pile of, you know what, on top of that poor man's shoulders. I don't know how he can walk out of here at night. I feel sorry for him, because he's the only one here that knows what the books really are. You all should look at the books. Be a businessman or a businesswoman. Come to work every day, not when you feel like coming to work.
Is there anyone else who'd like to address the board?
My name is Gerald Roberts, living in this township for over 50 years. I'm going to talk about this upcoming election. We have some of these people, you people that are up here, are running unopposed. Probably the big share of this board, except for probably 2 of them, are going to be back. I heard a rumor that the Anderson Coalition had been back into town with regard to a write-in candidacy. I don't know if that's true or not, but I heard it. And they're going to try to take Mr. Klee out of the office through a write-in candidate. I complained last time with regard to a crossover between church and state. I think that's wrong. It's always been an unwritten rule. We don't do that. We don't go into a church and say, vote for these particular people. Now, when I worked at General Motors, I worked there for 35 years. I had good supervisors and I had bad supervisors. But over the period of time, what you have to do, if you're put in a management position, is you have to treat the people that are working under you with respect and dignity. They are human beings. They need to be addressed as human beings. From what I was reading, that didn't happen. And we've paid out a lot of legal fees with regard to our office people having complaints about certain people here. And there was mistakes that were made. I think those particular 4 meetings that were held that were supposed to be where the people couldn't attend here. But I think that was only supposed to be for people, in other words, that were on staff, not if there was a complaint against an elected official. I think that should have been open meeting. Should have been an open meeting act with regard to the people out there knowing what's going on. We need to address people with respect and dignity when you're in a position. This election that we've got, I'm a born-again Christian, I'm a veteran, I'm a right-to-lifer. And this particular election coming up, I've seen lies. The border is closed, there's no people coming in, there's no people coming in, the border is closed. Yet 20 million people are in here and thinking that those people are gonna be voting and maybe turn this election. It's wrong, wrong. I'm a veteran. I was called up, in other words, 3 times when I was in the service. And to have a socialist, Marxist person running this particular country with those particular type of attitudes is wrong too. I think we need to put people in there that haven't proven that they can lead this country and keep us out of war. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to address the board?
Yep, that's right.
Dave Huffman. I'll have to concur on some of the citizens. You know, it's like anything else. You get stuff pounded down on you for so long, and some of the people who sit in the audience and take everything in and listen to everything, you know, believe it or not, they're listening and they're watching this board. And I have to concur with a couple of our speakers tonight that got up and spoke about the insensitivity and the embarrassment and the absolute disdain for our residents out here that we heard at the last meeting. I cannot believe, I've been out in this township for over 50 years. My father was on this board in the early 70s. I've been a political activist and somebody concerned about the township all of my life. And never in my life have I ever heard, and I'm not going to mention any names, a particular trustee was happy to announce that he might have controversial ideas in the township, but he was very proud of those controversial ideas. Now, his ideas were to have a 4 mil tax increase without a vote of the people in this township. Now, I guess that's very commendable, according to our trustee. Then if that wasn't enough, we come back after our comptroller had expressed a $500,000 possible deficit going into the next fiscal year and had the audacity to come up and blindside the board with a proposal of a new superintendent or a new manager to do things for anywhere from $100,000. If you go out to Grand Blanc, they're paying their city manager $200,000 a year with benefits. Now, to me, that kind of money maybe could be more used to hire more fire personnel, more police personnel to run this township in a responsible manner. But unfortunately, I think what's happened to this township board, and I've watched it and I've listened to it, I've been around it all my life, I have a real sneaking suspicion that all this was nothing but a smokescreen, but this was a game of political revenge against somebody that disagreed with this individual about millages. And that was one of the most cheap political shots I have seen on this board in all the time I've ever been coming up to this board. I'm hoping in the future, with the new board, new ideas, maybe we can get this township together, start not having our own petty political agendas, and get this township in the right direction. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to address the board? No? We'll call the public meeting, public comment portion of the meeting to a close, and we will move on to reports. So first I wanted to talk a little bit about the budget that's coming up. And I'll start with talking about last year's budget. If you were not here for the audit meeting, the auditors did a thorough presentation of where we stand. We filed the F-65 with the state. The auditors file with the state. We ended last year with an increase in our fund balance of, was it $4 million? So we started the year with $3 million in the fund balance. We're now up close to $5 million. We've been that high in the past when we had made cuts in 2011, I think it was. I say that, I mention that because I think the number one priorities for our residents are police, fire. They want their trash picked up. They want their water on when they turn their faucet on. And they want their roads to be in good shape. And we work to those ends. And they want a free and fair election. Got your hands full. So to that end, knowing that the priority is police and fire, the township, over the years, through attrition, has decreased one full-time employee in each department in this building. We're doing more with less. And part of that's possible because Controller McIntyre brings his experience to us. And when he first got here, I asked him after a month or so, how did he like being here? He said, you guys do everything by hand. And to that end, we have, really the big thing was to bring the accounting department onto the BSNA software so that it's integrated. So our tax department, assessing department, building department, and accounting department are all on the same software. And any receipting that goes on in the tax department, it gets back to you in accounting for journalizing and for keeping track of the money that comes in and where it goes. So you did a good job. So going into 2025, we are doing a preliminary draft budget now. Kevin, I think we've met with police and fire departments. We'll be sending out drafts of the budget. Each department fills out their worksheets for the money that they need to run their department next year. We have a pretty good idea based on years gone by what that's going to look like. We do meet in person with all the departments, but specifically police and fire. They're the majority of the budget. We do not know exactly how much money we're getting from the state statutory shared revenue or constitutional state shared revenue. We have an idea, but I don't know if it's finalized. We have heard word from Senator Cherry that the state is implementing a public safety trust fund for those areas that experience higher than average crime. Is that correct, Lieutenant Van Lente? We don't know how much that's going to be. 100,000, 200,000, maybe more. So I can't say right now what the deficit would look like if we can get near balanced, given the money from the trust fund. But that would be permanent as long as we are meeting the requirements and spending that money the way it's meant to be spent. But we have yet to pass that budget. I'm looking for the new board to come in. That will be November 20th. We will ask the new board for their input because they'll be living with that budget, and we'll ask them to pass that budget once they're seated. I say that, I know, Kevin, that our audit is not great. It's not the worst. I can say that since I've been here, our credit rating for bonding has gone up twice. This December, we'll be paying off the police station loan. We had a bond. I asked the board to refinance it. We dropped 7 years of that loan. We saved $500,000 in interest, and we'll be making our last payment on the police station this year. So when it comes to bonds, we have one bond left. It's a bond that, for a water main on Fenton Road, it's a project that was split between Burton and Flint Township. And then we have a loan out to, from the water department for the Flagstone Special Assessment, and that will be paid off over the next 15 years. And we have a couple of loans, one to the DDA and one to the Beecher CIA and the Bristol CIA. Those are smaller loans, but those will be paid off soon. That's the debt. That's all the debt we have at this point. We look at our pension costs. We've paid down on our pensions, but unfortunately, like we applied for the protecting my pension. We got $398,000 from the state to bring us up to 60%. And as soon as we got it, the markets go a little bit south, and we're behind on that. We had the fire retirement pension all the way up to 92%. I think it's down to 78%. But we've, picked away at that. I just know that every time that we get our actuarials, we owe more money for those pension plans, but we're working on those. And the last thing I wanted to say is that our board is committed to do professional development with Dr. Lou Bender to help us operate in a more professional and more efficient way to be more effective working together. And hopefully out of that, we'll be looking at doing strategic planning to be more efficient with the money that we have. So your concerns don't go unheard, and I do believe we're trying to do what we can to move the township forward. We have a ways to go, but we hear what you're saying. That's my report this evening. Madam Clerk, do you have a report?
The election will be November the 5th. But prior to that, you are able to come to the township here and register to vote, or you can also turn in your ballot at their time. We've sent out over 4,800 ballots, and we've received in maybe half back from that. Starting October the 26th through November the 3rd, it'll be early voting here from 8:30 to 4:30. Yes, there is still a way you can, if you didn't want to come in, you can also go online to apply for a absentee ballot. The deadline, I believe, is October the 21st, I think it is, to go online to register, if you wanted to register online and receive an application for absentee ballot. But we will be here for early voting. We're really pushing that. And we're noticing when we get a lot of the ballots back, if you don't sign the outside of that envelope, we can't process it. That's what we use to actually verify your signature in QVF, which is a system that goes through the state and through the Secretary of State. So make sure, if you're going to turn in your ballot, to make sure you sign that outside envelope that you put your ballot in. That's all I have. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, did you talk about the different areas where they can drop their ballot so they don't have to get out of their car and come in?
So we have 2 different locations. If you don't want to get out your car, you can actually, we make it pretty convenient for you. There is a drop box in the parking lot, out here in the middle of the parking lot, and it'll say 4 ballots. And also at the senior center on Graham Road, you can also drop your ballot. There's a drop box there. All of these drop boxes are monitored per requirement of the state by cameras, so they are safe and secure. But if you incline to want to bring your ballot in, we're more than happy to accept it Monday through Thursday when we're open from 8 to 5:30. There's a box outside the clerk's office, or one of the employees will take it for you and also process it for you as well that way too.
Thank you. Mr. Treasurer, do you have a report for us this evening?
Surely do. We're gonna talk about, some folks were considering and concerned, obviously, about looking at that $500,000, and Kevin and I have been talking, off and on, a lot in the past 6-8 weeks, and talking about what we have out there, and then when these start to roll up new, for renewal at the end of this month and another month, is what is happening with the feds. We just got a return on one of our sets, and they dropped us almost 0.75%. But yet, we're making interest on all of these pieces. The sweep account is doing very well for us. We're around about 25,000 a month, is that what we're working at? So, in a 12-month period, we're looking at $250,000 that we're going to help, and that will, like Kevin and I have said, love to be able to target that to something, but the main target is go to that bottom line, get rid of that bottom line. So I'm working really hard trying. Kevin's been given some accolades tonight, and I'll throw them at him as well. He sits there, he talks to you, he gives you the line, and he's a great piece of and wealth of information that I appreciate. So I appreciate everything you're doing and the efforts that, we're fighting to make it better. I want to say I'm looking forward to being here. You made a commitment in the primary. I'm looking forward to be here in the general and afterwards. And we do have meetings already scheduled, Madam Supervisor, as you stated, to help facilitate a smooth transition. So I'm looking forward to that. And I have one item, and that's to pay the bills.
Thank you. Are there any trustee reports this evening?
But I have a request. Tom, if you could possibly make sure that the whole board gets a copy of your report.
Please speak into the mic.
Okay,
Ma'am, I'll
can
be
you hear
more-
me?
Yes, ma'am.
That the whole board gets a copy of your report?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other trustee reports? Mr. Leverett?
Well, I'm gonna say one thing here. I've heard everything that everyone has said tonight, and I think that we need to look at this here personnel meeting personnel meeting that we're looking to have. I think that meeting is gonna do some things to help us come on up and look at a sense of unity. And I'm a little discouraged about the OMA, the Open Meetings Act, because I think it divides us a little bit. So I'm looking at some information to see if we can do some things to kind of curtail that, to bring us a little bit closer together in the things that we're doing, the different meetings that we're having. I remember at one point in time in my journey or my career, people used to take care of a lot of business on the golf course. But this Open Meetings Act has kind of put us a little bit apart. So that's what I'm looking at to bring us closer together in our discussions, our meetings, so that we can be a little bit more accurate about all of the things that we're doing and talking about. I appreciate everybody's concern. I've enjoyed being here. But I talk in reference that I was effective on that side where you are right now. And I hope I'm being as effective on this side. And if not, God knows. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Tucker, do you have a report for us this evening?
I have a couple of items on the agenda, but I did want to, Clerk Triplett had given me the bid opening results for the senior center, and I wrote a brief summary for you of what we'd like to see. We did have two bidders. They both were above what the funding stream was that we have. So what we would like to do, if the board does not object, we would recommend rejecting the bids and starting the process over with a request for a breakdown of certain projects By doing this, we can clarify and address some of the questions and exemptions, and we can eliminate parts of the project if needed to meet our budget. So we'd like to put this back out for bid, but to have a little bit of clarification in the bid documents themselves for the projects themselves and ask for a breakdown.
Does anyone object to that?
I don't, but I think the issue is that there was a change on the fly, and you can't do that. You know, like, you can't just change something while they're going through, and then somebody came back later and there was a
But the
mandated
issue-
day to come through, and
No,
somebody,
what the issue was we had a mandatory walkthrough. The purpose of a mandatory walkthrough is so all bidders have the same information. The information that they were sent out after was the exact same information that they got at the mandatory walkthrough. It went to all three bidders. So the issue was one of the bidders didn't check his email. Cause he got the second one I sent him, that was a follow-up to the first one. So, so what, but that's not, but the issue was that the bidders that did bid were over. And there were some exemptions in there, like, one of the things was, and I know that in talking with the director over there, and Mr. McClung might know better than me, but my understanding was that they wanted 2 colors of paint for the walls, because the wainscoting, they wanted different. Both of the bids were for one color paint, so that's not clear. There's also an issue on whether or not they can use, a certain fixture, or if they're going to have to rewire, because there's Romex in the ceiling. So I wanted to meet with, or have, our inspector meet with me or Mr. McClung at the site, have him look at it and let us know exactly what we need, so that we're clear and we don't have any surprises once they get in and start doing their project. So that was a clarification that we wanted to do as well, so.
So this is an ARPA-funded project for
Correct.
the senior center.
Correct.
Each senior center in the county is receiving $100,000 from the Genesee County Board of Commissioners.
That is correct.
And you're gonna talk with, is it Dan Moulton? We can rebid
Yes,
this, right?
Dan Moulton, yes, I did talk to him about it, and he said, yes, we could rebid it.
Okay.
And, cause I asked him about what would be the best process for it. He thought it was best to approach you and let you know, and as long as you guys are okay with us rebidding it under these conditions, whether or not that, as long as there's, no issue with that at the board level, then we can move forward and rebid it. Shouldn't be a problem, because the amendments have already been made to some of the clarifications have already been made, as Trustee Vert brought up. There was some amendments that were made and some clarifications made during the walkthrough. And then I do wanna clarify though on there that it is 2 different colors of paint for the walls, and that it is, and whether or not we have to have, the lines rerun, or if we can just do there are some fixtures that you can get for the LEDs where it has a disconnect on the fixture itself, and that may be what we can use, but a couple of the bidders asked me for that clarification. We did not have that for them at the time, so.
because those are expensive if you have to get the adapters for those. They're very expensive.
Correct, if
Yeah.
they have, if they have to rewind, if they can't use that, they'll have to rerun all that wiring, cause the wiring's all Romex.
Right.
So they can't do that anymore.
So, and a big issue, if you make sure that there's components within that bid, is the fact that this county's only given us $100,000, I mean, that's a lot of money.
Right.
But they're capping it. So if it cost $100,001, they're not giving that money. We have set aside, the board has agreed to set aside a contingency and, 10% contingency. And, the senior center has a smidge, so that's
Right, and
just if it goes
ultimately,
over.
it is our building. So the responsibility will fall on us if they get in there and it's a mess when
That's
they're
true.
done, because
Yep.
they're not able to finish, you know,
Right.
so, yeah.
Doesn't sound like there's any objections to putting that out for
Okay.
bid again.
So with that 100,000, so what if they were to go into the wall and say there's some mold or some other remediation that has to be done? It'll come from that particular amount, right? The 100,000, or would that something we would have to?
than that,
they're gonna
come ask
That would be a whole different story, if you get in there,
It's
'cause
always
that would have
possible.
nothing to do with that.
You started.
And they shouldn't be into the walls. The only thing that they're doing, well, if they have to rerun wiring, but that's gonna be a whole kettle of fish if we have to do that anyway. That's gonna change the whole project. If we get Ron Merritt over there and he says the wiring all has to be rerun, that's gonna be a whole different set of bid packets. But with what they're doing right now, all they should be doing is going into the drop ceiling and retrofitting the fixture that's there to a new LED fixture. So, and then they're painting the grids, right, Jim? And painting the grids and putting in new tile.
Alrighty, so I don't think we've heard any objections, so we're all set there. If anyone's interested, the senior center's at 2071 Graham Road. Jim will give a tour if you want it. Or actually, if anyone's over 55, you could sign up to be a member there. So, thank you, Tracy. We'll move on to Lieutenant Van Lente.
Thank you. Since our last board meeting 2 weeks ago, your police department's responded to approximately 1,200 calls for service, which includes 800 backup and 800 primary and about 400 backup calls. And simple math will tell you about 1,200 calls is on average 85 calls a day. So that's quite a bit per day. Wanted to touch on a couple incidents in the past 2 weeks. About approximately a week ago, a citizen in Flint Township left her vehicle running, and 2 individuals saw the opportunity, jumped in her vehicle, and stole it. Officers quickly swarmed the area and fortunately found the vehicle as the suspects were driving. Got in a pretty lengthy vehicle pursuit with those suspects into the city of Flint, where they reached a dead end, which they clearly didn't realize because they drove through the lawn into a fence. They both ran on foot, and officers quickly located the driver hiding in the woods, and he was lodged at the county jail. With the assistance of our flock license plate reader cameras, we also recovered 2 stolen vehicles without any vehicle pursuits that time. We responded to a structure fire in Brendanshire at Cambridge Square Apartments, and with the assistance of the fire department, it's likely it is an arson. So we're working together to investigate that. I'm sure Fire Chief Beck will have more on that. Friday, the 4th, was pretty busy. We had the homecoming parade that we staffed. We also had the homecoming game, which even though it's in Mundy Township, it's our high school, so we helped staff that game as well. If that wasn't enough, Vice President Kamala Harris flew into Flint Bishop and had a rally at Dort Financial, so we were asked by the Secret Service to help in the motorcade, as well as shutting down several traffic points. So between those events, we used every patrol vehicle, in fact, any vehicle that has lights on it was utilized. We had to call officers in for home to help staff those events. It was pretty taxing. And if that wasn't enough, while that was all taking place, our officers were on Court Street investigating a completely unrelated call when they received an alert from Flock about a stolen vehicle that was in the area. As they're talking, they literally observed the vehicle driving by.
Oh my gosh.
So they ran over to try and arrest the suspect. Seeing the officers coming, he fled, jumping some curbs and ran onto Court Street, popping a couple of his tires. As the officers were running back to their patrol car to chase him, he drove in such an erratic manner. He lost control and hit a bus stop on Court Street. Fortunately, one individual was able to jump out of the way. Unfortunately, another individual was hit by that vehicle. She did suffer some injuries that required hospitalization, but she will be okay. Officers pursued the vehicle onto I-75 from Corona Road, where because of the damage he did to his vehicle literally fell apart. He ran into the wood line near Court Street with officers chasing him on foot, up and down hills, through woods, around buildings. He was fortunately taken into custody. He is 17 years old, so the state of Michigan considers him a juvenile. So he was lodged at the Regional Detention Center. And during that incident, 2 officers sustained injuries that required hospitalization. They were both released that night. One is back to work, and one will be off for the remainder of the week. We did have an armed robbery at the Walgreens at Fenton and Bristol earlier this week. And then Grand Blanc Township had another armed robbery at their Walgreens. 2 detectives talked, and as I was sitting here today, our officers located the suspect vehicle with Flock and pursued it down Corona Road probably a half hour ago, and captured him over at Elms Road. So he is currently in custody, and there's evidence of his armed robberies in his vehicle. And then lastly, I apologize, but I wanted to touch on this. Flint Township is part of OHSP and has been for many years. That's the Office of Highway Safety and Planning. They receive funds from the federal government for traffic enforcement. So The state of Michigan runs their fiscal year from October to September, so the 2024 grant for OHSP just ended 7 days ago. So I put some stats together from last year. Through OHSP, your officers conducted 1,486 hours of enforcement. That's 2,436 traffic stops, nearly 500 tickets for seatbelts. We get a lot of complaints of speeding. We issued over 1,300 tickets for speeding, 110 misdemeanor arrests, and 25 felony arrests.
Wow.
So OHSP pays for all of that. They pay for the entire overtime rate and all the fringe benefits of those officers. So all this enforcement costs the township nothing. So this is a grant that I write, Lieutenant Baldwin wrote before me, and it's the only way we can conduct traffic enforcement. So that just wrapped up 7 days ago, and hopefully the 2025 grant will start very soon. I do have 2 agenda items, and that's it for me.
Lieutenant, the carjacking, is that what you call it? The 2 people who jumped in the car while it was running and stole it?
She was not next to the vehicle, so it's still considered just a stolen vehicle. Had she been in it, it'd be different.
How old were those kids?
Young, late teens, early 20s, I think late teens.
I thought they were 16, one of them.
Yeah, one of them was.
We need to pray for our youth. Thank you for that report. Chief Beckley, do you have a report for us this evening?
I do, thank you. Since the last board meeting, your fire department has responded to 46 incidents. This does include 4 structure fire calls and 2 vehicle fires. Right now, year to date, we are at 1,105 calls for service. Let's see here. On the 27th, we responded to a reported structure fire at Pasadena and Lavelle Roads. Our crews arrived quickly to find a 35-foot boat on fire behind the building. It was not actually the building on fire. Luckily, this was quickly extinguished by crews. However, it was a very large boat that was not anticipated in that neighborhood. So we are working along with the police department to determine the cause of that. But it is a suspicious fire at this time. Anyone that has any information on that, please contact either the fire department or police department. They're detectives. On the 28th, as Lieutenant Van Lente noted, we responded to the 4400 block of Brendanshire Court for a commercial structure fire call. The initial crews arrived on scene to find a 2-story townhouse with fire coming out of the front window of one of the apartments. Fire crews made entry, extinguished the fire, which luckily was contained to only 1 unit. We were very, very lucky in this incident that they actually had proper fire stops in the attic, and they were actually in place, so it was able to hold the fire completely into 1 apartment. There was minor damage to the adjoining one, just to make sure that there was no fire extension in the attic space. There were no injuries reported in this fire. We were assisted on scene by Swartz Creek, Flushing, Mount Morris Township fire departments. As Lieutenant Van Lente said, we're working together with our investigators internally, along with the police department, detectives, and ATF and Michigan State Police to try to figure out who lit this fire. But this was an intentionally set fire. If anyone has any information, please reach out to the police department and their investigators. Obviously, this could have been a lot worse, and luckily there was nobody hurt during this incident. On the 1st, we responded to Mount Morris Township to assist them on a house fire as well. We did respond with 1 fire engine, and Assistant Chief Rowley responded. They were out there for about 2 hours. And along with the police department, on the 4th, we assisted with the special detail in conjunction with the Secret Service for Kamala Harris's visit to the Flint area. We are very happy to be able to assist in these as well. We did provide a standby fire engine and a crew should there have been any issues during that time. So luckily everything went extremely well. Just a reminder, as we get close to fall here, the leaves are starting to fall. There's no burning leaves in Flint Township. They must be bagged. They must be taken out to the road or disposed of accordingly, but you cannot burn leaves in Flint Township. It is against the ordinance. It's actually, I believe, against state law to burn them down here as well. So please do not burn leaves. Right now it is extremely dry, so we are actually not issuing burn permits at this point until we get a little bit more rain. If anyone's been watching the news, there's been some pretty extensive fires up in the Bay County area over the last few days with the wind and dry conditions. So please don't burn right now. Make sure that you're giving us a call at the township, 810-732-4413 to get a burn permit. Those are issued daily. So please make sure you're calling on the actual day that you intend to burn. And just a reminder again, do not burn leaves. And I have nothing for the agenda this evening.
Those burn permits, they're just verbal, right?
They are verbal, yes. Yep. And if for some reason we don't answer right away, those are answered by our on-duty firefighters after hours. If we do not answer, it's probably because we are out on a call. Leave a voicemail with your information. We'll call you back as soon as we get to it. Just know that it could be just a few minutes, or it could be an extended period of time, depending on where they're at, what they're doing. So just bear with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief, and if I may, one of the main reasons that you ask, they're free, burn them, use them, but it's to let, you're my next door neighbor or 2 doors down and somebody's burning and the neighbor's freaking out and making calls and wanting to know, and that way you folks can say, yes, we're aware of it. Can you elaborate on that kind of situation, where it's cleaned up some situations like that?
Yes, that's correct. So the burn permits hold a variety of reasons. First off, there are restrictions in the burn permit ordinance due to winds and all of those things. So if the winds are over 10 miles an hour, we will not issue permits just because of the smoke and also the hazards of floating embers, things like that affecting your neighbors. But it is also for us to be aware of what's going on. So if we do get a call saying, hey, we think a house is on fire, a shed is on fire, something's on fire, we have an idea of where there are people burning the township. We do keep a track of them. We do write them all down. So it is also for us to be informed of where there are issues, so that if it is just a minor neighbor dispute, we might call you on the phone, just to resolve it that way if we can. So, yep.
Thank you, Chief. Sorry about
Absolutely.
Mr. McIntyre, you have a report for us?
Yes, I do.
And I'm going to ask you if you could bring the microphone much closer, because you're soft-spoken as it is.
So I passed out some documents for you that has to do with ARPA. We had discussed at the last board meeting on the different ARPA funds, so I started some calculations just to square up where we were and give you an idea of what was left and potential ways to spend it. So this report was partially what we came up with, the different two positions, the fire marshal and a full-time fire, and to put that money aside. I know there's some other requests. There were other things that people were requesting, but I recently watched a video which has to do with the ARPA reporting and the different ways that they are recommending that you kind of spend the money. There's a lot of restrictions and a lot of rules. So they're saying that probably the best way to not lose any of the ARPA dollars is maybe just recognize a dollar amount as for payroll expense or some sort of large expense that you've already incurred, and then recognize that ARPA to offset that, so that the ARPA rules where you have to have funds committed and you have to have, if you don't pay it or if they deny it, then you have to refund the money and you have to pay the money back if they deny some of your requests. By making an entry right now to say, let's just recognize the rest of the ARPA dollars, it then goes into your fund balance, and the board can vote to spend that fund balance however they see fit. If they want to spend it on whatever, we want to buy another fire truck, or we want to buy whatever, the board can then make that decision to spend those dollars in however they want, because it would be in fund balance, and you wouldn't be under all the rules and restrictions and the time limit, the time frames for the ARPA dollars. So what I gave you was basically one sheet was a breakdown. The other one was sort of like the motion that they gave as a sample of what you'd want to do if you chose to go that route. This was just information. I wanted us to talk about it. I didn't want to make any kind of board motions or changes or try to do something tonight. I wanted you to have this information so that maybe at the next meeting we could decide, yes, we think this is a good idea, or no, we're going to continue on with what we've already done. I didn't know if there was any questions, if anyone, what I calculated is here listed so that you can kind of see where we end up. And the estimates, after there's a yellow line that says possible spending, that was like some of the township computers we had talked about. We have 20-some computers that need to be replaced. And then I have Green Gin, I don't know if it's Myrtle Grove or something. There's, I think, on the agenda later to ask about some of the demolition. So that was gonna be in here. If we chose to just go with the route of we recognize it as revenue offsetting like payroll expenses, then that sort of would put that money into fund balance, and you would still have to decide what you wanted to do, so.
So I see that we have spent, was it $3.2 million? We, after the board has approved the last couple of expenditures, have $283,088.64, and we have talked about the positions over at the fire station that need to be funded, so those are earmarked on here. And then there's the 10,000 for the contingency at the senior center, and a couple other ideas. So I see that you're gonna put together a plan and bring it to our next meeting.
If the thought was that, yes, that we would like to, I don't wanna say get out from under, but the ARPA has very strict rules. You can only spend it on certain things. Payroll expense is one of them. So if we recognize this as expense and itemizes it as payroll, it also, there's no more reporting we have to do. There are no more rules that we have to sort of follow on how to spend the money. It would be spent, the ARPA would be closed, and in April of '25, we would be done. No more reporting and none of the other behind-the-scenes work that has to be done for all these different things. Have to create a project, and it's like just a lot of work to record them. If we did that, then reporting would be done, and it would be in our fund balance where the board has any decision that they can choose to spend fund balance with a board of the vote, a majority of the vote of the board.
Sure.
Unless somebody down there.
You have a question? Or-
Well, Kevin had brought me up to speed on this very quickly on it, and one of the things it takes, the word you and I came up with was obligation. We're not obligated.
Yeah, so by 12/31/2024, you have to obligate your funds. And obligation, in the eyes of what they define that is, you have to have a signed contract. So,
Done, started, and work started.
and work started with the contract. So I'd say you want to add an addition on here, you have to have signed that contract by 12/31, or they can deny your request. Say, oh, I'm going to spend 10,000 on this. If you don't have a signed contract in place by December 31st, they can say, well, we're not covering that, and you have to pay that money back. So that's what I mean by all the rules that have the ARPA. There's very strict timelines, there's very strict rules of how you can spend it, where you can spend it. And I have a link, and I could send it to you, you can watch it. There's probably like an hour video. There's a gentleman from Manor Coaster.
Coasterson, yeah.
He's an auditor there, and that's, his recommendation is that people do this so that you can then just put it into your general fund where you can have the money to make the same decisions of what you want to spend. It's just not guided or ruled by the rules for the ARPA.
And it would, if I may, we talked about the word restricted. If we wanted to say, hey, there's $283,000, we're putting that and taking us away from the ARPA issue, and them looking over Kevin's shoulder constantly about where it's going. But yet we would still be able to say, and allocate that out of that dollar. And we would, and like he said, this is informational, gives us a 2 weeks to look at it and review it, and the link for the video as well.
Yes, because the dollars would go into basically your fund balance, but you could restrict it. You could say, we are gonna pay the payroll, but then we choose to take 283,000 and restrict that for special projects or other
special
projects or
projects. There you go. That was
anything
it,
that you would
special
like in the future, so that it just doesn't fall into fund balance, general fund, slush fund, so to speak, and spend it on whatever, and it gets wicked away on whatever. You could earmark it specially for whatever projects, or just other projects, you could call it, and that way set it aside and spend it in the future.
All set?
I'm good.
Anyone else?
Thank you, Kevin, for your
Yeah,
work.
and like I said, I didn't want to make any motions or anything tonight. I wanted you to have this information so we can talk about it, and then they give sample motions of what you could do maybe at the next board meeting if that's what we decide.
Go ahead, Doc, I'm sitting back.
Yes?
Well, Mr. McIntyre, I'm looking at this right here, and you're putting the plan together, or this is part of it, right?
I can put a plan together.
The initial part of it.
This is just information so that, like, individually or however, you can come to me and say, I like this plan, I hate this plan, whatever. Your guidance to me will dictate what I do with this information. If you're all for this and you think it's a good idea, and I have several people telling me that, then I would make that as the motion. But if several people come and say, no, I want to keep this the way it is and know that we're going to spend it on whatever, we can do that as well.
Okay, I think I've heard a statement that we couldn't keep doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. So, okay.
Well, and that's why I wanted you to have this information, and I encourage every one of you to reach out to me and tell me what you think we should do. I'll do whatever the board decides, but if you let me know, that's what I'll do.
So I went through my emails because there was some confusion as to who knew what of the ARPA dollars at our last meeting, and I just want to support Kevin here in that on September 16th of 2022, August 14th, 2023, and February 16th, 2024, Mr. McIntyre updated our department heads on the status of the ARPA dollars. Now, all of them weren't spent, but you kept us informed as to where they were going, how much was spent based on what the board approved and earmarked where we were going to spend the rest, and it all came to the board. So I want to say thank you for the work that you did. That required a separate audit, a single audit on the ARPA dollar funds.
Yes, it did. The last 2 years, we've had to have the auditors do a special, because the amount of dollars that we received put us over the threshold for a single audit where they have to do a much more in-depth. But because it was all what put us over is the ARPA dollars, you could have a special ARPA audit where the auditors went through and identified everything that we spent and made sure that we were following all the guidance and rules to spend the money correctly.
Alrighty, thank you. Any other questions? No? We'll move on to, where are we? Staff reports are done. Do we have committee report? John, do you have a report this evening? We'll move on to payment of the bills. Mr. Treasurer?
Yes, ma'am. Trustees, we were all issued via email copies of the invoices or the disbursements via the email. We have invoices in amount of $136,183.33. And as well as in that, in addition, we have tax distributions in the amount of $2,842,884.92. Total obligation, therefore, we have is a $2,978.25, both in invoices and tax distributions, and that's my motion, if you would, please.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Is there any questions for Mr. Treasurer?
No, other than I'm still gonna vote no, because we're not got the attorney fees under control. There is one invoice that I'm not sure, I didn't have time to verify if it was an authorized expense. I'll take care of that, it's not anything major, but I will check into that. And we still don't have an assessment report of what was spent for the board, the entire board. I'll be voting no.
Gracious. Any other questions? Don't have my board packet. Madam Clerk, roll call please on, did you have something? Roll call please on payment of the bills.
Did you say you needed that?
Yeah, I can't find mine. Can I borrow it? The motion was to pay the bills in the amount of,
$2,900,000.
no, that includes a
$2,979,068.
that includes a distribution.
Right, you want the whole amount, right?
No, if we vote no, we're not distributing. We have to distribute. So it's $136,183.33.
As authorized.
Oops.
That hurt. Sorry about that, folks.
Trustee Fabdahl,
Yes.
Treasurer Klee,
Yes.
Trustee King,
Yes.
Trustee Burt,
No.
Supervisor Miller,
Yes.
Trustee Leverett,
Yes.
Clerk Triplett, no.
So the motion passes by majority. We move on to, let's see, correspondence or informational items, Madam Clerk.
None, I have no idea.
Move on to new business. A is to set the public hearing for the Justice Assistant Grant. That would be for our next meeting, right?
Correct.
That's 21, October 21st.
October 21st, 2024, yes.
Alrighty. Motion is in order to set that public hearing, please.
Clee would move to accept the motion supplied by the PD in that we set the public hearing on October 21st, 2024 for the Justice Assistant Grant, sometimes referred to as JAG, award for the fiscal year 2024 during our regularly scheduled board meeting.
Second.
Alrighty, all those in favor, there's no further discussion, all those in favor of setting the public hearing for October 21st for the Justice Assistant grant? I said October 21st, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that stands. Action item B, Mrs. Tucker?
This is the budget for the DDA. I gotta look up, so I'm looking at it while I'm talking to you. For those of you who weren't here the last time we did a budget for the DDA, how it starts is it starts at the DDA board. They do a draft budget. Then it comes to you for approval, and then it goes back to them for adoption. So, basically, the budget for next year, as you can see, is quite a bit less for projects. And it's also less for the, revenues that'll come in. And that's mainly due to the fact that we are no longer, putting in our budget the capture for the public safety millage. That will go directly to the millage fund itself, and we are not gonna do the pass-through anymore, so that made a difference there. Do you have any questions? If you look at the second page of the budget there, that gives you an idea of what the, projects are we're doing. We're continuing the mowing of the ramps, trash pickup, landscaping around the new signs, blight control, trash pickup, code enforcement, that's kinda in there as well. Community events and marketing, holiday decorations, the website, miscellaneous planning services, marketing and education plan, oh, wait, no, we're not doing that. Solar and landscaping for new signage. I'm not sure if we're gonna use any of that next year. We're trying to get it all done this year, but we left a little bit in there in case there was anything left, that needed to be done, cause you never know with the weather, what's gonna happen, right? So that's where we're at with projects for next year at 131,870. And, the operating costs are 58,000, and then the loan repayment is 36,138. That includes the principal payment and the interest rates, or the interest that we pay to the sewer and water fund, for a total of $226,367 for, projects for next year.
Any questions for Mrs. Tucker?
I just have one. So, Mr. McIntyre, Kevin, do you have this you have this budget, right? You both have the same one?
I haven't officially put it into our system. She gave me a copy of the budget.
Okay.
But I have not got to the point of putting it into the
Okay.
BSNA to reflect that. Because
Thank you.
it'll come to the board when we vote our budgets.
All right. Thanks.
I put it in the system, so,
Oh,
yeah, I put it in the BSA system. So he had mine, but I don't think yours part is in there yet.
I've only been working on general fund. To be
Yeah,
honest, I
I
haven't moved to
figured
any.
Yeah,
any
not
other
a
ones.
problem.
So a motion is in order to approve the 2025 DDA budget.
I'll make a motion to approve the Flint Township DDA 2025 budget as presented.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion or questions? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, roll call please on approving the 2025 DDA budget.
Supervisor Miller?
Yes.
Clerk Triplett, yes. Treasurer Cleek?
Yes.
Trustee Leverett?
Yes.
Trustee Burt?
Yes.
Trustee Favdal?
Yes.
And Trustee King?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Action item C, Mrs. Tucker.
So this is much the same. This is the Beecher Road CIA budget. And they had, hold on. Same thing, they're not going to have the, capture for the public safety in there, but they also don't have the expenditure for the public safety. Theirs is a lot smaller budget, as you can see. They have, their projected expenditures next year are 28,305. Basically, their projects include, the community events and marketing, holiday decorations are their big thing they're doing. The other big thing that they've done up there is the exterior facade and renovation program, which the businesses up there can get up to $2,000 for improvements on the exterior of their business or their parking lot. They've had one person this year, they had two last year. And so that's their biggest expenditure if they have an expenditure. We have, public safety was our biggest project cost at $13,500 last year, and we won't have that next year. So their total budget is, for projects is $28,305. Let me go back to the first page here, sorry. And, their portion of operating costs is $11,000, and their loan repayment is $7530. Again, that is principal plus the interest. And, their projected revenue next year is $69,000.
Motion would be in order to approve the 2025 Beecher Road CIA budget.
Make a motion to approve the 2025 Beecher Road CIA budget as presented.
Is there a second?
Support.
Any questions for Mrs. Tucker? I guess that, Madam Clerk, roll call please on approving the motion to approve the 2025 Beecher Road CIA budget as presented.
Clerk Triplett, yes. Supervisor Miller?
Yes.
Treasurer Clee?
Yes.
Trustee King?
Yes.
Trustee Burt?
Yes.
Trustee Fabdall?
Yes.
And Trustee Leverett?
Yes.
Thank you.
Action item D is to set the 2024 Halloween hours.
This is your favorite.
Yeah.
I mentioned that.
If someone feels inclined to make a motion to do so, now would be the time. Hate Halloween. Anybody?
I'll move to get us to conversation. I'll move that we accept the hours for the Halloween discussion throughout the township between the hours of 5 PM ending specifically, I'd rather change it to 7:59, but I know I can't get that, or go 5 to 7, because by then it's dark, real dark, and for safety and that, but I can't change that motion.
Is there a second to the motion?
A second.
Any questions or discussion? I implore all of you to vote no. Madam,
I'm gonna have a conversation for a minute, just because.
you have something to say?
Yeah, I do. I played the game when I was a kid, and I used to decorate my yard with haunted stuff, and as of late, because we've lost so many kids on our street, most of us don't do it anymore. We all turn our lights off on my street. Although this past summer, we had 2 families move in, which we've all kind of gotten together and said, we're going to make, like, for the 3 little kids and the 2 little ones over here, we're gonna do up a bag and physically take it down from a bunch of us old people on our street and give it right to the dad and the mom and the kids, because they're gonna be going to grandparents and things like that, and they're just not doing it on our street anymore. But I have to say, 5 to 8, for you guys, thinking of it, 5 to 7, if you're gonna do it in your neighborhood, my neighborhood, your neighborhood, walk the streets, 5 to 7 is plenty. But I'm gonna stop right now and quit.
Any further discussion?
Sorry.
Hearing none, all those in favor of approving
Sorry.
the 2024, does that say trick or treat on here? That says Halloween hours. Official Halloween trick or treating hours, October 31st, 5 PM to 8 PM, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Aye. We move on to Planning Commission appointment. You have the name of a resident in our township. His name is Ed Dean. You have his resume.
See it go down?
Did you put, is a resume in here?
Yes, it
Yeah.
is. Second sheet.
And I want to mention that John Gazelle, who also is a resident of our township, he's an architect. He has an office downtown. I'm sure you've seen it. He's been on our planning commission for a very long time. He's the one who recommended that I appoint Ed Dean. And so when I contacted Mr. Dean, he was willing and able. And so I'm recommending that we appoint Ed Dean to the planning commission. There's 2 things I want to say about this. One is that all the appointments will be reappointed, except for this one, will be reappointed when the new board is seated. And I know that Mr. Dean lives behind the neighborhood where the board has approved that parking lot across the street, kitty corner to GM. It's a big project. The site plan has to come before the planning commission, and there's a lot of details. And he's a very detailed-oriented person with a lot of credentials behind his name. So for that reason, I'm recommending that the board approve an appointment of Ed Dean to the Flint Township Planning Commission.
You said his appointment will not, it would extend it to for the next 4 years, but everybody else have to be reappointed?
Because I would have to look at it. I'm going to assume that most of them will be expired by November 20th. If we want to stay till November 20th and redo it, it doesn't matter to me.
There's you have 2 empty spots right now, and the one empty spot, I believe expired in 2023. They're 3-year terms, so this one would go to 2026. I mean, you could go to November 2024, but that wouldn't make any
No,
sense. Because he's
it's
taking a
October.
2023 spot, so if that would go to 2026, so he would go to 2026. I think you do have some people that are expiring this year that will have to be reappointed, so, but other than that.
Okay, a motion would be in order to move forward.
Didn't you move it?
No, I recommended it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll accept the planning commission movement,
It's the supervisors.
recommendation of the supervisor to have Mr. Edwin Dean the fourth fill one of the vacant positions.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion?
I second.
Conversation?
Questions or discussion?
Yes. Like Tracy said, I know we have 7, so really there's 9 on that board.
There's 9. We've
So we
had
talked
2
about
empty.
getting it squared away, so can we focus on that?
So
Try to?
what I'd like to see, and I appreciate everyone who steps forward to fill those seats, because sometimes you sit on the hot seat. I'd like to see and keep a variety of different backgrounds on the planning commission, and I'd like to see representation from different parts of the township. He happens to live on the southeast side, so that's good. And I don't know that many people with backgrounds that would serve on the planning commission. So please, as we move forward, if you have someone that you want to recommend, let's get their resume in here. Anyone who's interested in serving on the ZBA or the planning commission, and so that we can consider that.
All right,
Yes,
thank you,
good.
thank you, thank
Yep.
you.
Alrighty, any further questions or discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call please on the appointment of
Who was the second?
Gene, to my right.
That's right, you did.
Mr. Edwin Dean the fourth to the planning commission.
Trustee Leverett,
Yes.
Trustee King,
Yes.
Supervisor Miller,
Yes.
Treasurer Clee,
Yes.
Trustee Burt,
Yes.
Trustee Babdahl,
Yes.
and Clerk Triplett, yes.
Thank you. Action item F, personnel, Lieutenant Van Lente.
Before I go into this, I want to touch on something real quick I mentioned in my statement. I think good, hard police work is worthy recognition. So I talked about the armed robbery at Walgreens, and I had to get on some more info. So this suspect committed an armed robbery earlier this week at Fenton and Bristol, committed another one in Grand Blanc Township, and then between the 2 agencies, developed a suspect vehicle. So after 6 p.m., so during this meeting, our officers, your officers, located that vehicle at the Walgreens at Linden and Corona. He was casing the joint, casing the building. They set up surveillance on it and watched him run out of Walgreens. He had just robbed it by gunpoint. So they pursued him down Corona Road where he gave up. So your officers took into custody a suspect who did 3 armed robberies in a
Just
week.
down the street.
The last one being 1 mile down the road. So
Good job. Yeah.
I think that's worthy of recognition. So-
Yes, it is.
We're gonna adopt the Canadian Mounties. We always get our man.
So to the action I have in front of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, DL.
It's
Lieutenant.
important. So, your police department is requesting that Gabrielle Thorsby be hired to replace a vacant budgeted clerical 3 position within the police department. On October 2nd, 2024, the individual who held that position resigned, and we have been looking for a replacement ever since. Following the contractual obligations, that position was posted internally. There was no interest, so it was then posted externally. 4 candidates applied. They were administered a written test and then a oral board consisting of myself, Lieutenant Nemechek, and Sergeant Donovan. and Gabrielle Thorsby ranked at the top of our list. She is a graduate of Flushing High School and has a bachelor's degree from Saginaw Valley. She has been working part-time at the police department already as a communications operator, so she has a understanding of our report rating system and basic functions of the police department. The position she'll be filling is essential to our FOIA, which Clerk Triplett is very familiar with, our obligations in FOIA, and our body cams, redaction, discovery for our defense attorneys and prosecutors, which those tasks have been divvied amongst multiple people, and it's very time-consuming. So this is a position we desperately would hope to have filled. She meets the requirements. She's a great employee. So the motion is to fill open clerical 3 position at the police department with Gabrielle Thorsby effective tomorrow, October 8, 2024.
At the recommendation of Lieutenant Van Lente, would someone like to make the motion?
I'll make a motion to hire Gabriel Thorsberg to fill the open clerical 3 position at the police department effective October 8, 2024.
Is there a second to the motion?
Support.
Any questions for Lieutenant Van Lente? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, roll call please on the hiring of Gabriel Thornsby to fill the clerical 3 position at the police department effective October 8th.
Trustee Fabdo?
Yes.
Trustee Burt?
Yes.
Supervisor Miller?
Yes.
Treasurer Clee?
Yes.
Trustee King?
Yes.
Trustee Leverett?
Yes.
And Clerk Triplett, yes. Thank you.
So our last action item is a demolition contract. As many of you know, the board approved the demolition of a court-ordered judgment for Cinema 10, and the board approved it. And as it turned out, in working with the owners of the cinema, they chose to demolish that, and instead of incurring the $218,000 demolition charge and an administrative fee, they saved on the administrative fee, and I think signed the contract after the abatement, the asbestos abatement study was done, and the demolition of the Cinema 10 will be occurring here in the next couple weeks. It'll start. So in the meantime, we've taken a mobile home park that's not fit for human living conditions to court, and we got a judgment for demolition. And the estimate to demolish what's up there now is before you. It's $130,000? $135,000. And so, same situation. We have an estimate, and right now, we have tagged, we had, did you go out there, Lieutenant Van Lente?
Yeah.
You and another officer and some of our code enforcers?
Correct.
Rental inspector? They tagged all of the homes, and I'm not sure how many are out there.
20, 25, maybe, if you want to call them homes, yeah.
Oh.
Throwing up numbers.
38 homes.
Mark's throwing up numbers.
Tagged an eviction notice, keep out, and we tagged them with the paperwork from the judgment from Judge Goggins, wasn't it? They have 7 days to leave the properties, and we tagged last Tuesday, is that right?
No, last Thursday.
Thursday? So they have 7 days, and Attorney Gilner is wanting to move forward in order to keep people out, because you and I went up there. It's not safe for anyone to live up there. And so I'm asking this board if they would consider paying for the demolition. What will happen is we pay for it, then the bill gets assessed, certified to their taxes, and hopefully we cover that. I know that the owners of Green Gin have a loan out with a company named Sapien. They wanted to start over, and maybe this would help them with that. There's value in the property, but not in the condition that it's in. There's no water. They haven't had water since mid-August. They're starting to tap into the hydrants. You mentioned that, Chief Beckley. There's no trash pickup. I don't think they've had trash pickup since the beginning of September. They're overflowing. There's trash everywhere. It's a mess. So I spoke with Controller McIntyre, and we have $80,000 of ARPA dollars that we could put toward that, and then $55,000 would have to come out of general fund. It's my goal to either have Sapient do what the owners of Cinema 10 did, pay for it themselves, and avoid paying for that administrative fee, or we pay for it and we put it on their taxes. But either way, if we don't do something, they'll go back up there, and it's just not fit. It's not fit for dogs to live there. So a motion would be in order to move forward on this, if that's what the board wants to do.
Questions before, or after?
No.
What's that?
This is an estimate, right?
This is an estimate,
'Cause
yep.
it doesn't say estimate.
It is an estimate.
So we need to. Before we make the motion, should we put the word estimate in, or should I ask?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay.
I'll let you.
You gotta go? I don't know. No, not sure yet.
Put estimate.
Well, hang on a minute. We're all going. Here it goes.
Sorry, my phone's acting funky on me, it won't stop.
Oh, great.
That's it, right
That's
there.
it.
Last one.
Greg,
No, that's all.
yours mine.
So, I'm sorry.
Are we, what do we?
I'm gonna change
Technology's
the motion,
great.
if I might.
Go ahead,
I would
there's-
like to, where do you want, let's put it, you've got mine. I wanna amend it, yeah, you've got mine.
Sure, take it.
Just put in there estimate.
Yes, thank you. All right. If we could, just to protect ourselves all the way around, I would like to make a motion to accept, or to pay for the cost to tear out what's at Green Gen and get the building, the trailers, leaving the cement pads in place at 3073 West Dayton, Flint, Michigan, according to a township specifications for the estimated sum of $135,000.
Because actually, you need to read it from here,
Oh, you're
because
right.
it tells where the money comes from.
All right, my bad. I apologize. I'm gonna change that again and put the estimate here.
Where it breaks down where the money's
Yep.
coming from.
This motion to contract with Burn Ash Wrecking to perform the demolition as designated in the contract, i.e. present, at 3073 West Dayton. The cost will be paid with an $80,000 grant from the ARPA dollars and $55,000 from the general fund. This is an estimate for the total cost, and this will be paid out of line item 101-371-825.000. Kevin, does that fit with the estimate word?
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Can we get a second?
Why are you putting estimate in there, the contract?
Second.
Go ahead.
Should we cap that though, so it doesn't go over a certain amount?
That's a good call.
Isn't that a contract that they give you? Wasn't that their estimate? And
It's-
once you sign it, it's a contract, right?
Yeah, but
It's an estimate.
includes permit and water sewer cut and cap, owner responsible for obtaining a permanent disconnection of utilities, we know that. And it does not include any asbestos or inspection or well abatement and abandonment, so we could get tapped with those.
So, Mark, when you were up there,
Not an estimate.
were you guys looking, I thought that I had heard that they didn't suspect that there'd be asbestos given the date of those mobile homes.
That was true.
Okay.
Say that again? Mark, I'm sorry, we were,
I asked them, when they were up there tagging those,
Mm-hmm.
based on the date of the homes up there, that the building department didn't think that, I mean, they didn't tear them apart, but it didn't appear as if there would be asbestos in those mobile homes. Go ahead.
But we never went into any of the mobile homes.
And you probably don't want
The
to.
only building we actually went
Yep.
into was like what we call their clubhouse. They have a little, like, 8-apartment clubhouse there. We went into that one, but, you know, we're not experts
Yeah.
in
Mhm.
asbestos, so.
thank you.
But if it's an estimate, I think we should cap it at a certain amount.
And now,
This
Madam
isn't-
Clerk just pointed out to me, they're offering us a purchase order based on a flat fee of $135,000, so estimate or not, the only piece in here now that, looking at it again based on the two pieces, yes, we have 80 and yes, we have 55,000, but the last line, this does not include any asbestos surveys or, so how do we, I think we
So
need to
I can
cover
tell you what the
ourselves.
plan is, because we tagged those homes and they have 7 days to get out. Burn Ash is coming at the end of next week to knock those homes down to prevent anybody from going back in. I think at that point, they're gonna know. So, well, if it's necessary, I'll come back to the board if there's any notice of asbestos, and we'll go from there. Because they don't do that. I think we have
Are
to
they
go.
doing it as an emergency demo? Or, if they're doing it as an emergency demo, the rules are different for asbestos and Hollywood.
Well, we'll take a look.
Yeah, so
Alright,
that's
so-
probably why they didn't include it
but
in
still-
there. Because in an emergency demo, the idea is that it's a hazard, it has to be taken care of, they don't have time for abatement, they just get rid of it.
Well, the judgment says the homes are uninhabitable. Alrighty. Yes?
But are we talking about, looking at this right here, it say purchase order?
That's the name of the document for us to be able to approve the amount.
So any additional cost?
Our intention right now is not to go over 135. If it does, we'll come back.
I think, may I? I think I see what Mr. Leverette's saying is Bernash has agreed to this $135,000 number, which I, and yes, I said estimate through that word, because he's saying specifically, I will demolish, remove, backfill the 2 buildings, all trailers leaving the cement pads in place at the address of Dayton Avenue, according to our spec, the township specs, for the sum of $135,000. The price does include, and I'm reading from his versus our motion. The price does include permit and water sewer cut and cap, end of story. Owner is responsible. That would be Green Gin, correct?
Yes.
Okay, for obtaining the permanent disconnection of utilities letter, we would be responsible for that then if we're gonna do this,
No, we're
right?
not gonna take it.
We're not gonna take that
They
on?
are. They own it.
Well, I know they do, but, okay,
Tom, I can't see if they let it go for taxes.
we aren't gonna
The
get,
township, there's no value in the township in
Exactly.
taking that as a tax reverted property.
I just wanna cover ourselves with that asbestos piece, so.
It doesn't, but it doesn't say an estimate. There,
Exactly, that's what we're saying, this is like
Right.
a
This
actual
is-
contract.
yeah, this is it.
This is
It
bottom.
doesn't say estimate.
We don't have to worry about capping it, okay, so drop the word estimate out of here, and the only thing, like I said, the only thing I'm worried about is this asbestos abatement. Where do we stand, where do we land with that?
Like I said, when they went out there, because of the dates of those mobile homes, it didn't appear
bold
that
as
they
they are.
would. And then we'll look at if it's an emergency and maybe there's a different route.
What new guidelines, okay, then can you scratch what I stated, Tracy, can you wipe out what I said? Thank you.
Wait, there was a motion, a second on the table.
No, did I hear a second? Did we
Yeah, it was
second?
King and King.
Yeah, we have a second, so,
And that's why we're having
Go
discussion,
ahead.
but was this the only company that we got bids from or estimates from?
Yes, because it was a court judgment and we need to do this quickly.
And so by, they're quick or something, this is who we use when it's a quick or?
So we have, when we tagged them, we gave them 7 days. And Gilner said, and Lieutenant Van Lente, I mean, we had a discussion in Chief Wangler's office about our next steps. Once we tag those and the 7 days are up, we need to do something, and that's when they're gonna come in and they're available to knock them down. And, they'll do the cleanup a little after that, so, it was a time is of the essence.
If we evict them from the property and then we leave with those trailers still standing, they will come back.
he's right.
There are squatters in there, there aren't actual residents. There's very few actual residents, it's a lot of people squatting in there. So if we leave them standing,
They're not paying rent right now.
No.
There's no water.
They
I
will
don't
be.
know where they're using the facilities. I have no idea.
it'll be a large undertaking for your police department to go into every trailer and clear it before even if it looks abandoned, we need to go in there and make sure nobody's squatting before they tear it down. So I'd rather do it once, if possible.
They knock them down.
Mr. Leverett?
Well,
No.
I think, Ms. Tucker was saying something about an emergency.
Well, and with them doing
Change
it
the
so
rules.
quickly, yes, it does, it changes the rules on the asbestos issue. So, we had that issue when we did the emergency demo of the, medical arts building, when we did that. It changes the rules of how you have to do certain things. So what they'll do is they'll probably still do the demo with the intent that if there could be asbestos, they still use water to keep down the dust and that kind of stuff. But I think it changes like their dumping process and their abatement, testing. I think because it's an emergency and it's a health hazard, they don't have to do that testing. So that's the difference.
So, Madam Clerk and I went up there with Chief Wangler last week because we knew this was gonna be on the agenda. And I know that there are more homes in there than there are people living there. Although there are people living there, and we've had phone calls to the code enforcement, building department, police department about, what are they gonna do? Where are they gonna go? And we've been in touch and provided resources for them through Catholic Charities, right? And I think that, when Bernash goes out there to do this, you guys will be out there also, right?
Yeah, like I said, even if it looks abandoned, you can't crush a trailer unless you're sure nobody's in
Yeah.
there. So actually with how many people are squatting, so it'll be a labor-intensive day for your police department. I don't wanna do it more than once.
So, question, if someone says I have nowhere to go, are you gonna escort them down to, like maybe Carriage Town or something?
If they'll take them.
Okay.
You know, they have rules, it's just a matter of, you know, there are kids that live in there. You know, we gave everybody in there resources through CPS, Catholic Charities. We gave them a laundry list, if you will, of resources to call, but they all knew this was coming too.
For
Every
2
single
years
one of
now.
them said, we knew this day was coming, so.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? No?
Do you, give me a second, I'm trying to. I don't wanna circumvent and Tracy, I don't wanna, and this, again, here's the squirrel up here going around again. I don't wanna circumvent something that might put us in a position of not putting this to bid. Is it, what, is it, was it, does it need, I know Bernash does a great job, but are we protecting ourselves? By giving
So-
this purchase order coming in this way?
This is an emergency. They've been working on this for a long
I
time.
know,
And
I
it's
know.
finally coming to, it's gonna
finalize.
get done.
But let's,
Finally.
but let's just, I just wanna make sure we cover our butt.
Well, you
That's
can
all.
talk to the judge then.
No, I don't wanna, no, I just, for him to say, if it's okay to grab
Allows
one,
emergencies.
say it again?
Yeah, your purchasing policy allows
For
this for an
emergencies?
emergency,
Emergency.
for
I'm
you
done.
to not go out to sealed bid.
Okay, then I'm gonna, can I redo my motion?
Sure.
Wait a
Mr.
minute.
King, if you don't
Can I
mind,
ask a
He wants to
Sure.
just restate it,
Why are
right?
I wanna restate it, not to, yeah,
To say that it's not an estimate, because this is the actual bill.
correct. I
Even
don't,
though we're voting on it.
I'm gonna, yes, I'm
Somebody
gonna,
already accepted
Are you
that
using the
Bernash
motion
is
that's in the
doing it, and
packet?
we just kinda like going along with it, that's what that is.
I'm gonna go with the motion in the packet.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. King, are you willing to, okay, let me read it again then. Sorry. Demolition contract, the resolution states, the motion to contract with Bernash Wrecking, document presented, to perform the demolition as designated in the contract at 3073 West Dayton. The cost will be paid with an $80,000 input from our ARPA dollars and $55,000 from general fund. This will be paid out on, as Mr. McIntyre stated, item 101-371-825.000.
Perfect.
And that bill will be assessed to their taxes, and hopefully, through conversation and communication, they'll pay for it before we have to do that. So, we've got the motion, we've got the second. Any further discussion or questions?
I apologize for the lengthy
It's okay.
discussion.
It's accurate.
Makes sense, 'cause
Yeah, thank you. You're right.
Any discussion? Any questions?
Thank you.
Now's the time.
it's just that this purchase order is misleading. But I know it needs to be done, we've been dealing with this for almost 3 years. I did see the place, it is deplorable, nobody should be living there. Just like we've already accepted, even though the board is voting on it now, it's like somebody already said, yes, you're doing it, and it's bringing
No,
it's to us saying,
it's
okay,
not.
yeah,
If the
let's
board
do it.
votes no, it doesn't happen.
That's true, but that's not an estimate, that's a purchase order, that's the difference. But you ready, you guys ready to vote?
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you for my motion. Thank you for the second, Mr. King. Oh,
Wait a minute, let me ask this question. What, it said it's gonna be, you said, it's gonna be, the tax was gonna be to whom?
The owners,
the owners.
But we need to state their name, right?
Well,
Green Gin.
Green Gin,
Okay.
it's
We
already.
got it in
it's-
judgment from
it's
the
already
court.
in judgment from
You
the court.
said then, to them.
Yep, Green Gin.
Okay, you ready?
And it is just like what we did with Cinema 10.
Yeah.
We went to pursue it, and the owners got involved and ended up paying for it. That's my intention, is to have them pay for it. It's their mess, they need to take care of it. And if not, we'll get it done and we'll certify it to their taxes. Because they still own that property, and if they want to rebuild, it's something that's gonna have to be paid. Alrighty,
Okay, I got it.
any other questions? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, roll call please on the motion. Do you have something?
Okay, trustee Fabdo,
Yes.
trustee King,
Yes.
supervisor Miller,
Yes.
clerk Triplett. Yes. Treasurer Clee,
Yes, ma'am.
trustee Leverett,
Yes.
and trustee Burt.
Yes.
So our action item under new business is done. Our number 12, our next meeting is October 21st at 6 PM. All those people going trick-or-treating, enjoy. And since there's no further business, and without objection, we'll call the meeting adjourned. Thank you for being here. That was a long meeting.